Hello and welcome to part 4 of the series on immunity. Today we're going to talk about food. Now, this is a pretty big one, at least for me it was, because I hadn't realized when I started learning about the stomach, the GI tract, the small intestine going right down into the large intestine is actually the basis of our immune system. Now, I talked a lot about how in the first series or first video that we've got two lines of defense. And so we've got an internal immune system, we've got an external immune system. Our part of our internal immune system is the lining of our GI tract or gastrointestinal tract, and a big part of what it does, um, it prevents any what's called dysbiotic flora or any pathogens, so bad bacteria from getting into our bloodstream. So having a really healthy, what's called a microbiome, so or a gut or a cell lining wall of our gut is incredibly important for our immune system. Um, and it's actually 90% of our immune system. Other things that is actually produced in our gut are things like serotonin, the kind of hormones that are innately, intrinsically, should I say, associated with our well-being and our mood, which also has an effect on our immune system, or on our health and our immune system, is produced in our gut as well. So things taken into account. So this is going to be a big one. And once again, the invitation is for anybody who, this might, bring up something for. Maybe this is the thing where you get the most bang for your buck. So it may not be about exercise, it may not be about sleep for you. It may be more about getting your diet or your food in order, and then that's where you're going to get your most um, bang for your buck. So, like I said, 90% of your immune system is around your digestive system. So at this stage, I mean, we all know by now probably that high sugar diets are a thing kind of not of the past, but we need to really be limiting that, especially those what are called monosaccharide. So those short single cell sugars, and that actually puts our natural killer cells, so our immune system, it turns it off for hours, right? So if we're in a time right now where we're really trying to boost our immune system and keep it kind of ready to go at any time, then you really want to be avoiding staying away from those simple sugars. Um, uh, so the other things that are worse things for our immune system right now are those hydrogenated fats, simple sugars, which I just mentioned, pro-inflammatory foods. Okay, so things that we know now are starting to be are pro-inflammatory are things like gluten, so a high gluten diet or a high dairy diet. And I'm not trying to say here like, look, don't do any of this stuff, but it's okay. How would it be to just trying to start wean some of this stuff off? Um, if you're ready to go, kind of uh, all all go with it, you could look into going on like an elimination diet where you're kind of cutting out those pro-inflammatory foods. So that could be a resource or a research line for you there with that. So things that also are pro-inflammatory are cutting out, fruit and veg, which are actually got anti-inflammatory effects to it. So you want to try and find the balance between, if you're eating a lot of sugars, then you got to be eating some of those foods that are going to be uh, kind of work against that, like so the anti-inflammatory ones. Um, so so we all have foods that that might make us feel tired. I know for me, for a long time, eating, if I ate a lot of bread, I'd feel like, kind of almost like I need to have a nap after it. And that's kind of a good telltale sign that, my body's having a tough time in digesting it, that it's causing inflammation, things like that. Or if you feel bloated, that's a pretty good sign that, okay, this food isn't really reacting well with me. So it could be that the next step might be just cut those foods out and see how you feel. Um, with an off note with that is typically we're finding that if you cut these foods out, it takes about 23 days of eliminating from your diet to really reset your inflammatory markers in your body. Um, so um, you know, if you were to really get a sense of, oh, is this something that's really worthwhile for me? Try and stay off it for at least, over 3 weeks. because part of that is you're not going to feel great for the first while. There's going to be a 3 or 4 day period of where you feel like what's called die-off or Herxheimer reaction. But this is a very normal thing to. It's like detoxing essentially. But if you stick it out for the 23 days, then that's where you're going to see most of. You're going to get a real sense of how you feel. Yeah, right now. There may be, obviously, because of the situation we're in, there might be more people sitting at home and just kind of binge eating, things like that. That is going to have an effect on your mood for number one, but also on your transportation system. If you're just sitting around, fluids in your body are just going to become stagnant, and it's going to cause more risk for getting sick. So another thing to keep in mind. And then going back to what I mentioned about your boosting your fruit and veg. So foods that are rich in what are called flavonoids, these are um, foods that have got anti-inflammatory components to it. So your citruses, your apples, your ginger, green tea. Berries are really good, and apples have got what's called quercetin. That's a flavonoid that's really important for your immune system and for decreasing inflammation. So and then also a very simple tip: if you're the person who's done a lot of all this stuff already, and the next thing might be bringing in some diversity. And what that basically means is that your microbiome is basically a whole plethora of bacteria and microbiotics that live in our GI tract that actually help with the whole general health of our immune system and our gut. It's kind of like if you're out in the garden and you're planting flowers or vegetables, you want to have a nice healthy compost or soil full of many different composts that really helps support the plant. And it's the same with our gut. We've got these millions of these microorganisms that help with this. And so what it's basically saying here is that increasing your diversity of fruit and veg. So what we're finding that is if you can eat a diverse amount of fruit and veg, so it's kind of like eating the kind of rainbow of colors. So like your red peppers, your yellow peppers, your green lettuce, your your citrus, your yellows, your oranges, your purples. If you can eat that, you're basically feeding that. You're bringing diversity to it, and it's actually seeing that is giving really good. It's having a really positive effect on our health and things like that. So yeah, that's the big thing around food, and food in the context of our GI tract or digestive system is a whole bigger piece in itself. But if you can play around with some of the ideas that were presented here, it might be, for some people it's just like cutting out those going on a white diet, cutting out those white foods like your white bread, your white sugars, your white rice, things like that. Or for other people it might be just bringing in more rainbow colors of foods, and for other people it might be just taking notice of those foods that make you feel lethargic or tired, or take energy from you. So any questions? Yeah, please leave some below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Have a great day, folks.